It's 8 p.m. and here are our top stories in 90 seconds. A tragedy in Douglas County after a plane hits power lines, crashing to the ground.
I'm Denver7 CB Cotton, live in Lone Tree, where two people and a dog were tragically killed in a plane crash. All details on where the investigation goes from here.
Another record-breaking day across the Front Range.
I'll come out here and put my feet in the water for a minute and probably take 3 cold showers just to get through it.
Hot and dry again today, but there is rain and cooler weather in the 7-day.
President Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin meet face-to-face in Geneva.
The tone of the entire meetings, I guess it was a total of 4 hours, was good, positive.
But Biden made it clear to stay out of American politics.
Bottom line is, I told President Putin that we need to have some basic rules of the road that we can all abide by.
Plus, more Front Range law enforcement departments are hiring mental health clinicians.
We are listening for very specific phrases. Sometimes we have very specific calls titled mental health.
We have an in-depth look at how this will impact both police and the public.
They see our uniforms instantly. They don't want to talk to us, they want to deal with us.
Good Wednesday evening, and thank you for watching Denver7 News on Local 3. I'm Jessica Porter. 2 people were killed today after a small plane crashed into power lines in Douglas County. A dog was on board and also did not survive. Denver7 CB Cotton joins us live from Lone Tree, where there is still activity tonight. CB, people in the South Metro are out of power because of this?
Jessica, that's right. Xcel Energy is still on scene, and as a result, some customers will experience outages. So here's what we know right now. For up to 2 hours beginning at 10 p.m., customers in the area of Quebec Street to Chambers and C470 to Castle Pines should expect an outage. Xcel says there will also be an outage for up to 2 hours, again beginning at 10 p.m. for residents in the town of Parker and residents in Lone Tree. Now I want to go back to details of how this crash happened. Fire officials say around 1:45 this afternoon, people started calling in that they were seeing a large plume of smoke. That smoke followed the moment when a single-engine turboprop Lance Air Evolution aircraft hit electrical lines before crashing. The plane was bound for Centennial Airport from Neosho, Missouri. No word yet on if the pilot made a distress call before the crash. Now the investigation will go into more depth with aviation experts, the NTSB and FAA.
We are working with the NTSB and the FAA. They're going to do the investigation. Our side of it is basically making sure that the fire is handled and the area is safe.
Jessica, definitely a tragedy out here in Lone Tree today. We haven't confirmed the names yet of the 2 people who died in the crash, but we do know that will come from local authorities. Jessica, back to you.
Thank you, CB. Well, we have a Denver7 Weather Action Day still in effect for the extreme heat. Today, the Mile High City again hit 100 degrees. That tops the 2020 record when it was 96 degrees. This is just the 14th time the city has ever hit back-to-back 100-degree days. So if you were wondering, the most 100-degree days we've had in a row is 5, and that last happened back in 2012. Mike will have our full forecast in about 15 minutes. All week long, we're talking to experts about tips to help keep you cool. One ER doctor says water is important, but so is salt.
You should have some kind of a salty snack that will help you to kind of retain more water and get some of those electrolytes back. When you're sweating a lot, you lose not only water, but you also lose body salts.
Our heat wave coverage continues right now on the denverchannel.com. Mike's put together a special in-depth hiking forecast for anyone looking to get outside this week. President Biden took part in a much-anticipated summit with Russian President Putin today. The president says there were some disagreements, but the overall tone was positive. Some of the topics he brought up were human rights, cybersecurity, and election interference. In a press conference after the meeting, Putin said the talks were constructive and that there was no hostility. President Biden mostly agreed with that assessment, but says he was still firm with the Russian leader.
I made it clear that we will not tolerate attempts to violate our democratic sovereignty or destabilize our democratic elections, and we would respond. The bottom line is, I told President Putin that we need to have some basic rules of the road that we can all abide by.
President Biden says that he feels good about this first overseas trip, but time will tell if this was successful. 1 in 5 families in the nation are directly affected by severe mental illness. The National Alliance on Mental Health says this can either be a family member or friend who is mentally ill. For those families that have loved ones with mental illness, they often worry about interactions they could have with police. But departments across the state are doing what they can to respond to mental health related calls with the proper expertise. Denver7's Eddie Guajardo spoke with the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office, who is in the process of adding 5 new mental health specialists.
30, are they physically fighting?
As the 911 calls roll in,
Clear me from the fire stop.
co-responders with the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office are listening to dispatch intently
We do have a built-in radio to the car so that we can listen to calls.
and responding to calls based on keywords and phrases.
Erratic behaviors or maybe rambling speech.
In 2019, the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office launched the Behavioral Health Response Program. It pairs licensed mental health clinicians, also known as co-responders, with deputies when they respond to calls
You know what year we're in?
involving a mental health crisis.
We're in civilian clothes, we're unarmed. So sometimes that allows us to meet somebody in a crisis on a ground level and decrease maybe the feelings of threat or the feelings of intimidation.
Caleb Kittrell began working with the department last July. He's one of 3 mental health specialists hired by the Sheriff's Office in May, when the department decided to manage the program and end their contract with a community mental health agency. 2 more co-responders are in the hiring process. The clinician's goal is to help de-escalate situations and connect people experiencing a mental breakdown with resources.
I'm concerned about you.
They drive an unmarked car and can transport people to places like the hospital.
I can help you get somewhere.
A lot of people call in. It's not criminal based, it's not civil based, it's straight mental health based.
Sergeant Brett Cohen with the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office says the mental health specialists have a dramatic impact on people. If the person does not pose a threat and has not committed a crime, the clinician can take over.
Basically, we step back, the co-responder runs the entire thing.
In 2020, between 1 and 3 clinicians responded to 1,600 mental health calls.
Now that we're going to be fully staffed, we obviously expect that number to grow.
They also saved deputies 230 hours. Julie Jacobs, the Behavioral Health Response Program Manager, believes their team will continue to expand.
We're responding to verbal disputes, we're responding to domestic, trespassing, shoplifting.
Allowing deputies to respond to critical calls.
Arapahoe County is a large agency. Robberies, burglaries, anything in progress calls where I need my deputies to be able to respond for a tactical response instantly.
Getting people the help they need and officers back on the streets. Eddie Guajardo, Denver7.
In just 3 weeks, the 3 co-responders have responded to 118 calls involving a mental health situation. Now we want to add more depth on techniques used across the Front Range. Longmont uses the LEAD program. Rather than booking individuals for low-level crimes like prostitution or trespassing, police have the option to connect individuals with LEAD case managers who have lived experience with these issues. Emily Van Doren tells me LEAD connects them with mental health care, substance use care, and housing.
They're just really not generating the calls for service. Their quality of life is so much, they would report it's so much better and they're feeling more positive about it. And they still have really significant and meaningful relationships with our case managers.
The state has branched the LEAD program out to 4 areas: Denver, Longmont, Pueblo, and the San Luis Valley. Now let's put into perspective why these de-escalation steps are so important. The Washington Post has compiled data of police shootings in America. Since data collection started in June 2015, more than 1,400 people with mental illness have been killed by police nationwide. 29 of those people are from right here in Colorado. Now for another perspective on what's happening in Denver. The city uses the STAR program. It's different than the other programs mentioned. STAR teams respond directly to 911 mental health calls. The teams are made up of 1 mental health clinician and 1 paramedic, no police officers. In a 6-month report released in February, the city says 2,500 emergency calls fell under the STAR program. Teams were able to respond to 748 without assistance from police, and no one was arrested. In March, the city approved $1.4 million expansion of the program. Today I spoke with Vinny Cervantes from the Denver Alliance for Street Health Response. He says the progress STAR has made so far is great, but feels they could do better.
Which means more community ownership, more community involvement. Hopefully it means a 24/7 program that reaches all of Denver. Right now it's not that. And then we want to have more, more fragmented, not necessarily fragmented, but decentralized ownership of the program.
Now we want to hear from you. What do you think about these techniques to limit police interaction with people with mental illness? Send your thoughts to 360@thedenverchannel.com.
And to have a program really invest in me, laid the foundation for what I do today.
Tonight, as part of our Juneteenth coverage, we highlight a fund helping fill a historic gap.
An organization of color, particularly Black-led organizations, are often given less than half of what they need in order to even pilot a program.
How this is helping Black nonprofits succeed.
The heat rolls on, but there is some relief in sight in the 7-day.
And coming up later, stuck inside a hot classroom in this heat. Teachers are getting creative to keep kids cool while in summer school.
When you first come in, how hot is it?
Oh, it's pretty high. I never really checked the temperature. I'm gonna say it's at least about 76 to 80 degrees in the building.